We both live in New York City, and a few days ago, the city's Office of Emergency Management posted this video about what to do in case of a nuclear attack in New York City. And first of all, it was just absurd. It was like, go inside, close the windows, and listen to media. And I was like, what media? There won't be any media. You won't have a window to close. You'll be dead if you're in New York. But I thought about it was just very odd. And I am convinced that this is part of their propaganda campaign against Russia. I believe that there it is. Yeah, PSA.
Do we dare listen to this? Is this something that's worth listening to?
Sure, let's do it because it's absurd. So
It's
why
so
not?
absurd. I haven't yet, so let's see what it's like.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how or why, just know that the big one has hit, okay? So what do? There are 3 important steps that I want you to remember.
She said, don't ask me how or why. That's funny. That's really funny. Don't ask me how or why. It just did.
Step 1, get inside fast. You, your friends, your family, get inside. And no, staying in the car is not an option. You need to get into a building and move away from the windows. Step 2, stay inside. Shut all doors and windows. Have a basement? Head there. If you don't have one, get as far into the middle of the building as possible. If you were outside after the blast, get clean immediately. Remove and bag all outer clothing to keep radioactive dust or ash away from your body. Step 3, stay tuned. Follow media for more information. Don't forget to sign up for Notify NYC for official alerts and updates. And don't go outside until officials say it's safe. All right, you've got this.
Wow. You've got this.
I love the little pep talk at the end. It's like, what you say to a friend before they have a job interview. You got this. Everything looks like thermonuclear war, where New York would be a target. Nobody in New York is going to be. I mean, but having, aside from the ridiculousness of the commercial, the PSA, I just think it's odd, and I would love to know where this idea came from. I'm convinced it came from the Biden administration, and it's to make war acceptable to people. And all you have to do is just repeat something over and over again to get people to believe it. So they're evil countries, China and Russia, and they're trying to kill you. So don't question anything that the Biden administration says, because it's an anti-China Russia screed, in my opinion, and it's used to legitimize American aggression around the world. So, I mean, people have laughed and joked about it, but I think it's also something very serious. And so we have this, and it's a funny thing about Biden. I remember during the campaign, people would ask me to be on these webinars about if there's a change of administration, what will change. And I always said, nothing much will change, but I was wrong. It's worse. Nobody was crossing China and Russian red lines like the Biden administration is.
Yeah.
And he is a weak president. He's incapacitated by dementia. Ordinarily, I wouldn't use a term like that since I'm not a medical professional, but there is something not right, not well about Joe Biden. And it becomes more and more obvious all the time. And he's surrounded by these people. And I mean, they're the people he wanted, obviously. These neocons who think that the U.S. can do anything it wants to do and get away with anything it wants to get away with. And that is just insanity. So Germany is talking about rationing energy, and businesses may shut down. And it's the leading, or was, the leading industrial nation in Europe, until they, chose to be chumps for the United States.
Yeah, it's worse. You're right. I mean, that is what too few are willing to admit, is that it is worse right now under Joe Biden. And for me, even when you had the Trump administration during his term pass things like the Taipei Act, which was a big act of aggression toward China, almost legitimizing Taiwan's participation in international organizations. Huge, that's an aggressive move. So is pulling out of all of the treaties with that surrounded Russia, like the INF. Huge, that's pretty aggressive. However, it was all constrained. It was all singular moves that were constrained by a political environment where Donald Trump was seen as more of a problem than an asset politically. So when he was an asset, he would be praised. But there were not too many times where that was the case. A lot of the times it was just his very presence, which was seen as embarrassing. And so there was a lot of, you could say, stagnation and an inability for the U.S. National security state and its foreign policy establishment to come to any kind of agreements that would move things forward in a unified and in a methodical manner. Now, under Biden, it's been quite methodical. We've seen the ways in which the Biden administration has so-called organized these alliances, whether it's NATO or whether it's in the Asia Pacific, to really ramp up this two-pronged new Cold War with Russia and China. And we did not have a special military operation in Ukraine happening, nor the kind of response under the Trump administration that the Biden administration has okayed. And most of that was facilitated by Biden and the Obama administration, and now the Biden administration. So there's so many things that the Democratic Party has made worse, just pushing so hard, pushing the Republicans off a political cliff, really, when it comes to foreign policy and domestic policy. And then what I think surprises more people is the China approach, because there was a time where there were divides about, well, who do you go after first, Russia or China? Okay, well, we've weakened Russia enough, so we can kind of just hedge our bets on China. Now the foreign policy establishment is like, no, we need to go after both. This is the first time in history that NATO has said Russia and China is a threat collectively, and we've had this pattern with U.S. dominated institutions occurring over the past several years, and Biden has made it a lot worse. So, I mean, this video about nuclear, a potential nuclear catastrophe, you're 100% right. That is definitely underlying it, a message about how so-called U.S. adversaries are going to drop a bomb on us, not at all mentioning the fact that the United States right now is instigating two possible points of nuclear catastrophe. One, through its involvement and its suicidal involvement in Ukraine, not allowing for diplomacy. And then any person who likes the thought of peace, who does any research about what's happening with how the United States has dealt with the Taiwan question, even just in the last year or 2 years, will say, wow, that is not a good idea. That looks like a nuclear exchange waiting to happen between two big powers. Maybe we should stop that. The Biden administration has not done any such thing. And so there is both, I think, a level of just absolute opportunism and militarism going on, and then a lot of stupidity. This is really not going to go well for the very empire that wants to expand and wants to contain China. You push too far on this question, and we're likely to get buried. And I remember in late February, March, when Russia's operation started, there were a lot of people asking me, hey, is this the time we're going to get where there's going to be nuclear warfare? And they were all thinking that Russia was going to do it to us. There was no thought about, well, maybe it's the United States is, the only country in the world to drop multiple nuclear weapons. Maybe, just maybe, it could be the fault of the United States. But I'll stop there.